Welcome to Lifing Coast to Coast, the podcast where we explore trending topics in personal development, wellness, and the art of lifing in today's ever-changing world. I'm Moderator Miki here, along with the co-hostesses with the mostesses, Dr. Lovey and Heidi. Let's get into it. Welcome back, everybody, to Lifing Coast to Coast. This is your podcast destination for authentic conversations and real-life growth. I'm Moderator Miki, and I'm joined with my two lovely co-hostesses with the mostesses, Heidi and Dr. Lovey. How are you?
Good. You?
I said I was muted, but I wasn't. Hey, y'all.
I'm good. I've been thinking about making decisions and making choices and commitments. And then what happens when I realize that that commitment that I made is maybe not the right one for me? And I've been doing a lot of emotional growth and realizing what my values are and realizing that things that no longer serve me should kind of scoot out of my life. So I came across this term a couple weeks ago while I was reading, and I don't know if you two have heard of it, but it's called the sunk cost fallacy. You've heard of it? Oh, Heidi's heard of it. Good. Because I was like, I don't know. I'm young and I'm learning. It's a business term. It's a high level term. And I want to turn it into kind of a lifing term today.
I don't know that I've heard it. I may have, but it doesn't seem familiar to me right now. If it's business, who knows? I probably have not.
So it's interesting. It's basically, it's our tendency to continue doing something. It's more with like investment. When you invest in something, you put in time, money, resources, emotional energy into something. And then you see that quitting the thing would probably be a better choice, but you still continue to do this thing. And it comes from the belief that abandoning your commitment would mean that you wasted all this energy and you are a failure kind of thing. And it has to do a lot with commitment bias, loss aversion. We feel the pain of losing something more strongly than the pleasure of gaining something new. And just like a real life example, I was thinking more about this of like, I put myself in a lot of different scenarios, a lot of relationships, job opportunities, this, that, and the other. I could go on and on. My biggest one is actually my choice not to have children. And that's something that I didn't really know that was really what I preferred to do, because I would be in a lot of relationships. And that's always the inevitable topic where they want kids. So I'm like, oh, okay, I've invested time and energy and love in this relationship, and I love them and I want them to be happy. Therefore, what they want is what I want too. And I'm going to invest in that idea, when in actuality, it wasn't actually what I wanted. And this is, a lot of my friends know that I have actually been engaged 4 times in my life. And I'm not afraid to say that on the air. Y'all know now. I've been engaged 4 times, but never wed. And it's always because I push myself into these scenarios and relationships, and I feel like I've already invested so much energy by the time I realize that they're not right for me. And I put pressure on myself saying, I should just stick it out. I should just stay here, because the idea of opening a new door, making a different choice is scarier to me than staying there. So that's kind of what I wanted to talk about.
Well, this is such a good topic, Miki. And, in relationships, well, it reminded me what you just shared about being engaged 4 times. I've been married 3. So let's just be good with those statistics, because you know what? We get to change our mind. We get to pull the plug when it's time. That's for sure. but long ago, 80s, 90s rom-com, don't remember which one, Runaway Bride with Richard Gere and Julia Roberts, right? And the common thread with all of her fiancés was the way she ordered her eggs. She didn't ever order her eggs the way that she wanted to eat eggs. She always ordered the way that the fiance of the moment ordered their eggs. And that was the common thread that eventually unhinged. What are you doing here? So really good topic, not only for relationships, but another real quick reference people will understand is that house you buy that becomes a money pit. At what point do you stop shredding cash, because it becomes a lost cause? You can't continually throw money at a house that's never going to be worth anything or whatever.
Yeah.
So I think this is really beautiful. And, the sunk cost fallacy, being a business term, relates completely as a lifing term. Completely. But I've been with this firm for 15 years. And for how many years have you been happy? The first one, right? Love this.
It's also like with all this training that you do, you spend all this time training to learn a job and to do it well. And you find that, this is what you're really good at. But yeah, are you happy? Exactly.
Yeah.
It's huge. Learning what my values are and actually it's more so I don't want to disappoint myself, right? Because it's like I've put so much time and energy on something. I don't want to seem like a failure in my own eyes, which is like
you're judging your need to change as a failure, right? To shift gears means I've failed, when actually to shift gears means I've grown.
This is interesting. And I can see how the not wanting to be a failure, the fear of failure would drive some of this. I've actually worked with people who are driven by the feeling that they have wasted their efforts.
Mm-hmm.
And so that thought of it would be a waste if I don't continue on.
Yeah.
Is what drives them. Yeah. I'm trying to think about how this shows up in lifing, because this is a real thing what is it called again? Sunk
Cost fallacy.
Sunk cost fallacy. So in relationships, staying in an unhealthy relationship because of having a shared history with somebody and maybe having that fear of starting over, fear of wasting time, fear of being a failure.
Fear of being
And
alone.
you mentioned careers, houses, education. This has happened with me, staying in a program, a degreed program, even though it wasn't the right path. And then finding that relief when I finally said, you know what, this is not the path that I want to be on. I'm switching gears.
I love that you said you found relief, because that's something that like I shy away from, of like, oh yeah, I actually want to be happy. Who knew that could cause me relief? When I studied to be a singer, and I am a singer and I love singing. That's not what I'm doing right now. And so it's like, I think that I got caught in thinking about the past, and it's about comparing myself to that past idea rather than future forward thinking, which is what this article that I read was saying. That's how you should get over the cost sunk fallacy, is to think more forward.
What about your emotional attachment that you have, whatever the investment is, whether it's, a relationship or a career or a degreed program or a house or, whatever. What about the emotional attachment?
Yeah, it's huge. The emotions, it's like when we're thinking with our emotions, when we're making decisions with our emotions, that's when we get caught up in this. And definitely, I make every decision on my emotions, and I always have to bring myself back and be like, what are the facts? What are the actual facts here?
And in the emotions in that piece, I'll use this example because it comes up a lot for people, in particular when people are thinking about leaving a long-term marriage. And there's sadness and grief and all of those feelings. And what they're missing, what they're grieving, what they've lost is not actually what the marriage became. It's the dream of what the marriage would have been, what the original relationship looked like and felt like then, right? And then at the time that they're contemplating leaving this marriage, they're leaving for all the reasons that it hasn't worked, but they're tied to the emotion of the dream of what it was supposed to have been. And thereby employing that exact same thing, the sunk cost fallacy, but it was so good for whatever. I'll use my marriage to the father of my children, 5 years. And 20 years later, the sunk cost fallacy, you do the math, you've got 15 years on this side of the spreadsheet, 5 on that one, the 15 most recent one being uncomfortable, unfortunate, and not healthy, boom. But yet people stay for that very reason.
Because of the expectation, and the emotion.
Emotion, yeah. I'm glad you brought that up, Dr. Lovey, because, our emotions, do drive decisions. And sometimes they drive them in the right direction. What do you feel? I feel excited. Good. Go after it. What do you feel? I feel obligated. Oh, I don't know. Let's talk about that. Right.
Obligation word. Yes. Because I have been thinking about how I feel obligated to do things all the time. And I'm the one putting pressure on myself for that more often than not.
I wrote down a few things because I was trying to think about the different drivers, why it's so hard to let go of certain things. And I wrote down, of course, the fear of loss. So what if I regret this later? And then also social and cultural pressures. This is what's expected of me in my culture or my social environment. My parents have always said I was going to be a lawyer or, whatever. My mom can't wait for me to have grandchildren. And this isn't something I really want to do. My partners always expect me to want to have children. And then the other thing that I wrote down was identity and ego. So, and I think that ties into what you were saying a little bit, Heidi. If I let this go, who am I? Who am I? Especially if our fantasy or what the relationships were or whatever it is that's not giving us the return that we want on whatever the investment is that we've made, whether it's a relationship or a career or education or whatever it is. Who does this mean that I am now if I let go of that fantasy of what I want it to be?
How do you get to a place where you are excited at that thought, rather than being terrified of who am I? Really, the biggest mindset shift that I've gone through has been seeing things as opportunities rather than an obligation. The whole one door closes, another one opens. Yeah. What kind of advice would you two give to someone who might?
Yeah, I can think of another term I would use along the lines of the business, a cost benefit analysis, right? What has this cost you, this obligation that you have been fulfilling over and over again? And what benefits do you have as a result of this? Where are we with the cost and the benefits? Where are we, right? And when the costs outweigh the benefits, then we can see the way through to change.
Weigh the scales.
Yeah, I was going to say something very similar. I was going to say decisional balance. what serves you now and in the future, rather than what did you already put into it? What are the benefits? What are the downsides? Just like Heidi said, and really looking at the balance. What's heavier? What weighs more? What's more important? And then looking at aligning your values. I know I talk about values all the time, but I
Love
think it's so important. Once you clarify what your standards are, what your values are, what's important to you, then you can align how you are living your life and your goals and what you're doing with those values.
What are your top 3 values, Dr. Lovey?
Inner peace is one of them. I can tell you, I have them on my phone. Oh, no, it's inner harmony, spirituality, and love. Those are my top 3.
Love for Lovey. What about you, Heidi?
Oh, for sure, love, and then harmony and beauty. Beauty is one of my top values. And I mean beauty in a piece of music, in watching a bird feather a nest, in the sound of children playing. Beauty is everywhere, and it's a huge driving force in my life. I'm drawn to it. It is a weird word when I say it out loud to people. They're like, wait, what? But it is. It is one of my top 3 values.
I love that.
Yeah.
Makes sense. You know, you want to see beautiful things in the world.
Yeah. And I want to feel beauty.
Yeah.
You know, when you close your eyes and listen to a piece of music, you feel it. You feel the beauty of it, whether that beauty is mournful or sublime. It's still beauty, right? Yeah. Well, there we go. I got excited about my value.
What about your top 3 values,
Love
Miki?
values. My top 3 values are peace, inner harmony, and wisdom.
Mm.
And that has actually changed. You know, I took a values assessment last year and there were different, but peace has always been up there. Peace for everybody, peace for myself, which was the missing component, I think. You know, I got stuck in this fallacy because I was too focused on peace for everyone else and not a piece of peace for me. A piece of
So let me ask you this then. How can you tell the difference between being persistent and resilient, adaptable versus being or having that sunk cost fallacy in your own life?
It's a good question. I think that my resilience shows when I'm able to really see that something isn't for me. And, you know, to recognize what is best for me is what's best for all. Because when I'm happy, I can help others be happy too. And so I think that cost sunk fallacy, what trips me up the most is the unknown fear of saying goodbye to something and maybe hurting someone or something along the way. But I grow my resilience when I challenge that. When I say, if I get better, if I decide to do this for myself, then another door will open.
Absolutely.
When would the fear of disappointing other people get in the way?
It's when that expectation word, I think, comes into play, where, you know, you build something up and you're thinking in the past, you know, and also not really communicating or checking in with others. Perhaps I'm thinking more about my relationships and work in the past, where I get stuck in this routine and I'm doing the thing every day. I'm not growing and I'm not checking in with people. So I think that opening the door to communication has really helped actually know what people are thinking and not assume. that I'm disappointing them when I'm probably not. They're probably doing their own thing. Right?
Yeah, what I'm hearing is the whispers of people pleasing, not
Yeah.
wanting to let others down, not, wanting to disappoint at the cost of sticking it out and not having your own inner peace and your own inner harmony and happiness, right? And that is one of the biggest growth trajectories that I see that faces most people, in particular women,
Definitely.
I don't see men as concerned about disappointing people in business or in relationships. I think that, we kind of own that one. Not that it's an attribute per se, it can be in certain small dosages. But overall, would you say that what you're learning to do is to choose yourself over others?
Yes.
Necessary. Yeah.
Yes. It's hard.
It is.
It's really hard, but it's everybody grows that way.
Yep.
And you don't get stuck in this I'll just stick it out for one more day. I'll just stick it out for one more week, and making those excuses that hopefully people resonate with that, because I do.
Yeah.
The other thing that I thought about with this whole thing is self-efficacy. So the confidence that we have in our own abilities and being able to trust yourself to make the right decision, even if that right decision means quitting, and reframing your idea of what quitting means.
Mm-hmm.
You
I
know?
love that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because when you quit one thing, it makes room for more.
Mm-hmm. If we could shift from quitting meaning failure and quitting meaning moving forward, letting go of something that doesn't serve you anymore.
What
Instead,
is it making room for?
mm-hmm. What is it making room for? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
In a word, to me, quitting is freedom.
Mm-hmm.
It frees you of all the things that led to the decision of choosing to quit.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, that is literally off the table now. Yay, me.
Yay. And then we can take a breath and then take a step.
Yeah.
Thank you both for indulging my thoughts.
Oh my gosh.
Talk through it.
Fantastic topic. And I know resonant with so many people, in all different spheres within our life, not just relationships, not just jobs. Old friendships come to mind when I think about that. Old friendships are something we hold on to, even though you get together rarely. And when you do, you're like, okay, that's not it, and what is it? It's what we had in the past, right? And it doesn't mean, and I'm going to say this out loud, it doesn't mean we have to break up with those people. It doesn't mean that, unless they are toxic, and then yes, please do. What it means is we have to change the expectation of what that getting together every once in a while is going to look like, what it's going to feel like. You're going to go all the way across the country and spend 5 days in your old best friend's house. And after day one, you're going to want to get the hell out of there, right? So you make a plan that's like, oh, yeah, that's right. We're not the same besties that we were back in college. So I'm going to stay elsewhere, and we're going to spend a couple of days, a couple of afternoons getting together, but I'm not going to live in their house because that'll make it uncomfortable, right?
Mm-hmm. So before we close up, can we talk about some examples of when we've experienced this sunk cost fallacy in our life and how we moved out of it?
I have a funny one that I was thinking about. This one's funny. So I'm not a driver. I go grocery shopping using a little rolly cart. I'd be rolling down the street. And I've gone through so much weather to get groceries before. And it'll always be here in New Orleans. It's beautiful one moment, and then it's just torrential downpour the next. It's totally random, like the rainforest. So this is when I get caught, where I'm like walking, it's great. I don't have anything in my cart yet. It starts to rain, but I'm already like 15 minutes away from my house. It's like, do I just keep going or do I go home? Oh, I usually keep going and I find shelter because I've already expended that energy to get there. So that's my funny example.
It's a good one. I mean, it's practical. And in that case, it kind of is trudge it out, get her done, go home, be cold, be wet, put the groceries away and say, okay, good for me. I was resilient.
I did it. Exactly.
I shopped until I was soaked. Okay, good for me,
Yeah.
But you don't have to suffer in the way that you would suffer sticking in a relationship or in a job that was toxic, right? It's a different, but it's a good one. What about you, Dr. Lovey? You got one?
That seems like tenacity to me. Like when I think about tenacity, like, for me, probably, I mean, I have a few things. Probably the biggest has been in a partner relationship, having biological children with somebody. What is it going to mean to have children who don't have a two-parent household? Everybody told me in the beginning that this relationship wasn't going to work, and I feel like I have to prove them wrong. So I'm staying in this relationship. Am I going to be a failure? Also, that fear of abandonment, even though this relationship isn't healthy. I mean, there were so many things around that relationship, and having to consciously realign everything, just looking at this isn't serving me. I'm basically doing this on my own anyway. I could do better on my own as a single parent. The children would be better off. They wouldn't have this toxicity that they were living with. Financially, there is not consistency. So it took a lot of things to go wrong and for me to do that cost benefit analysis before I was able to leave. Yeah, even though it was very unhealthy. I had a lot of fear of judgment. That was a big piece, a big cultural piece too. The fear of expectations that people have on me. I came from a household where my parents were married and they stayed married until the day my mom passed away. So, yeah. And then the fear of the unknown too, right?
You're brave. Very brave. I relate.
What were you going to say?
Oh, I just relate. I relate a lot to it. Go ahead, Heidi.
For me, similar in terms of it was the relationship with the father of my three children. And interestingly enough, I could have stayed in that relationship and had all the things that I wanted. I had my dream house. I had plenty of money. I could travel whenever and wherever and with whomever I wanted. I was free to come and go. He literally didn't care, didn't keep tabs on me, didn't ask about my day. Like we were ships passing in the night. And, I could have lived my days out in that way. And for those of you who don't know me, I won't tell the whole story here, but in 2004, I went to rehab for prescription medications. And that awakening that I had there was really fantastic because they broke it down. It was beyond, addiction to substance or dependence, in my case, on substances and all of that stuff. And they told me that what was at the heart of my life dilemma was what they called security addiction. That's the money, the status, the things, the freedom, all the things. And who doesn't want all those things? That's what we're told that's what makes life rich and meaningful and amazing. And yet I was a shell of the woman that I was living with all those things because I didn't have the one thing that I wanted. And what I wanted was my number one value, love, real love, the true kind, to be seen, to be heard, to be a person that can be their whole self with that person and never be afraid, never have to protect or mask. And that's what I wanted. And the sunk cost fallacy meant giving up all the things, all the money and the freedom and the house and all the things that all went by the wayside. All of it, gone in a like a 3-year poof. But you know what? Oh, I would do it again in a nanosecond. Worth it. So worth it, because I got me and I got my life, the real life, the living life, the one I'm living today. And I wouldn't have it. I would be miserable. So, yep. I get this one.
You won.
Big time.
So if there was a question, I guess, that I would leave the listeners with or viewers with would be, if you could give yourself permission to prioritize your own truth and your needs, desires over the comforts of other people, over the expectations, societal, what would you do differently, if anything?
Such a good question. Please
And
let us.
how would it make you feel to do that? That's
Yeah.
I'm going to throw that in there. How would it make you feel to do that? That's it.
Yeah. Let us know in the comments. We love you all. Thank you both for this amazing, amazing episode. We'll
Great.
see you all later on Lifing Coast to Coast. Please subscribe and like us.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Lifing Coast to Coast. Join us every Saturday for insightful, relatable, and lively discussions that empower and inspire.